Check, check, check. All right, can you guys hear me? Are we good? Give me a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me. Check, check, check. Test, test. Can you hear me? Anybody? Yes, no? Okay. Okay, cool. Now I'm seeing it. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys. Awesome. So, this is going to be a fun show, is what I was saying. I was saying my heart's already racing. I'm like sweaty because it's a freaking hot day in the desert and it's hot in my house. So, forgive my like sweaty face. But there's a ton of stuff to go over today. So, we're going to talk about the most epic XRP thread that I've ever seen, which is what the title of this video is about, which is confirmation from David Schwartz, the creator of XRP, that XRP was actually created to destroy the bank's monopoly and to empower the people, which is pretty crazy. I mean, we already knew that, most of us, but a lot of the people who are like, Bitcoin maxis, anti XRP for whatever reason, like to say that it's the banker's coin. So we're going to break down a thread that David Schwartz commented on and approved that validates that. We're also going to talk about the Hinman emails, and we're going to look at Brad Garlinghouse's tweets and the head lawyer for Ripple, what they had to say about the release of these Hinman emails that have been hyped up, which, long story short, really make Ethereum look bad and corrupt and expose the SEC and Ethereum for colluding together to take down Ripple and the rest of crypto while giving ETH a free pass. So we're going to go into that. We're going to talk about a little bit Binance news, and then we're going to get into some Big T stuff. So you guys probably heard about what happened with Big T today. And there was another interesting tweet from someone in those circles that I want to share with you concerning the storm. So it's going to be a fun one. Thank you guys for hanging out. And let's go ahead and jump into it. Please share this video, by the way, if you can, in a group, Facebook, wherever you want. Share it, send it to a friend. Also hit that thumb, hit subscribe if you haven't yet. All that good stuff. All right. So let's start with this. This is the epic thread that I was telling you guys about. This is from nobody I recognize, but a user called Panosmek. And they said, it's sad that a big part of the XRP community still believes that XRP was created for banks or to help institutions. It was literally created to destroy the bank's monopoly and disintermediate them. XRP was created as a better Bitcoin for peer-to-peer transactions, for people, not banks. And with features like the DEX, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys know, but XRP Ledger has the oldest, reputable, longest running DEX in all of crypto. So when we're talking about decentralized exchanges, that's what a DEX stands for. That means that you don't have to go to a centralized entity. You don't have to go to a crypto.com. You don't have to go to a Coinbase. DEXs allow you to go beyond the scope of what your particular government may or may not allow, what the banks may or may not want, and operate in a completely decentralized platform to do trading and buying and selling. So XRP has had that longest running DEX. It's been around, like, I think over a decade, I think closer to 12 years now. So pretty crazy. With features like the DEX, Ripple's initial vision was to enable people to break free of the walled gardens of financial networks like credit cards, banks, and other institutions that restrict access with fees, charges for currency, exchanges, and processing delays. This is what Ripple mentioned on their website in 2013. Ripple, initially OpenCoin, started with a vision to build an open payment system and peer-to-peer credit network for people, not banks. And I want to remind you again, at the end, David Schwartz has completely given this the thumbs up, 100% right. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Not banks. On top of the XRPL and by utilizing its DEX and other features. Even though Ripple later decided to focus on the banking system and cross-border payments, they didn't do that to help banks and financial institutions. They did it to create a level playing field. Where have you heard that word before, or that phrase? They did it to create a level playing field for the small banks and destroy the SWIFT cartel owned by the big ones. All right. So this is what I've been saying from the beginning. This is what, a lot of people have been saying from the beginning, that even though XRP is being positioned to be used by the banks now, it's a Trojan horse energy, right? So it wasn't made to empower the banks, but the banks are going to have to use it if they want to stay current and up to date and relevant. It's going to make the banks obsolete. It's going to make Swift obsolete. And if the banks want to stick around, they're going to have to up their game with the services that they're providing humanity and actually present something that's of service. So this is where I've said in the past that I think banks are going to really be restructured. Excuse me. Banks are going to really be restructured, and we're going to see banks, I think, become true forms of global reserves. So instead of becoming these credit making machines, these debt creating machines, these enslavement machines, they're going to go to being actual reserves like they were initially supposed to be, or at least what they were told to the people they were supposed to be. And so, like, the example that I picture just real quick is being able to go to your local bank with a bar of silver or gold. And you're like, hey, I want to transfer this bar of silver or gold to my friend on the other side of the world right now. I don't have days to wait. It needs to be there right now. So you give the bank your bar of gold, they'll put it in their reserves, they'll take that and they'll transition it into digital gold. Then they will trade that digital gold into XRP instantly. And then they will send that XRP to your friend's bank on the other side of the planet. It will arrive in 2 to 4 seconds for a fraction of a penny in fees, no matter how large. Even if it's billions of dollars, it'll be around a penny and it'll still arrive in 2 to 4 seconds. And then the bank on the receiving end is going to take that and they're going to cash it out into digital gold and then liquidate it into physical gold. And then literally within a matter of minutes, and really it only has to be seconds, but minutes, because they have to take the gold and take it to the safe or, do that kind of stuff that you have to do at the bank. But within a matter of minutes or moments, you've just essentially quantumly moved gold across the planet. Okay, so this is the power of XRP. This is why I'm not afraid of this kind of digital currency, right? Like, there's a lot of fear mongering out there about digital currency being the enslavement tool. And yes, digital currency can definitely be used as an enslavement tool when it's centralized, when it's not for the people, when it's not owned and operated by the people. So we're talking like the Chinese digital yuan, right? That's not based on a blockchain. That is a totally centralized digital currency that's pretty much the same thing as just having US dollars in a digital bank account where, whoever's on the other end can go and mess around with that stuff. There's not really anything preventing it structurally from getting effed with, if you know what I mean. Whereas a digital currency, even a CBDC built on the blockchain, is going to have the blockchain as the backbone for its operations. And real quick, can you guys let me know if the stream is clear? I'm getting a notification that my Wi-Fi is a little low. Could you throw your favorite emoji in the chat if the stream is clear? And if it's not clear, say not clear. So yeah, so that's basically, there's two different directions digital currency can go. Everything has polarity to it, right? All technology has polarity in the intention that it's used, just like the internet. Internet might not have been created for good. It's definitely been used for bad, but it's also had a lot of good, right? Like the fact that we're doing this stream right now, the fact that we've connected and made friends with people all over the planet through the internet. We've taken something, whatever the original intention was, we've taken that and used it for good, but there's also people using it for evil, right? So same thing with digital currency, same thing with any technology. And to me, XRP is the technology that both groups want to control. It is an almost timeless or dimensionless like archetype of a system. I liken it in my conscious crypto program to being more of the God mind consciousness, right? Coming out of the systems that we've been working with, which you could call the inverted satanic systems, if you will. They were made to enslave people. They were completely owned by the people at the top. But this has the ability to truly serve the people and bring massive amounts of change. So awesome. Good to see the emojis in the chat. Thank you guys. Oh my gosh, Joel, I don't know if on my end it says pride person, heart lesbian. It's I don't, I think it just mistranslated your emoji into the software I'm using. That's pretty funny. Pride person, heart lesbian. Anyways, let's move on with this thread here. Either way, Ripple's business model doesn't matter much as it's just one project out of hundreds using XRP and building on XRPL. But some members of the XRP community should know what they hold and stick to the facts instead of believing false narratives. And these false narratives were created by Bitcoin maxis at first and have continued by XRP influencers and YouTubers who promote for their own interests, spreading misinformation and delusional theories around XRP. So he's referring to the people that say XRP is the NWO coin, XRP is the banker's coin, yada, yada, yada. Even people who are pro XRP, some will say that. XRP is for everyone, especially the people who are sick of banks and centralized entities that charge a lot of fees, but have big delays and can censor you, right? Lots of fees, big delays can censor you. I can say for one, XRP has freed me from much of the banking system. I do still have to have a bank account to do certain things, of course, but to be able to, use the XRP ledger for a lot of my transactions, I've set up deals with local stores where I can pay them in XRP. This is the kind of footwork we have to do to really implement this stuff. For my conscious crypto program, I'll take payments in XRP. If you're a business owner, you should really consider it because it's really going to expand your mind on the possibilities of how business payments, peer-to-peer payments, all this kind of infrastructure can really be changed with this new system. So to free the people from such institutions and give the power back to the individuals, this was the reason the XRP ledger was built. The whole point of the thread is that XRP is for everyone. It's an open, decentralized system with many features, and anyone can use it. People, businesses, banks, for whatever they want. Why is it so difficult for some people to understand? And then right below here, let's zoom in a little so you guys can see that. He says the legend and XRPL co-creator has spoken. End of discussion for people who still disagree. And it's David Schwartz saying, I 100% agree with this thread. Awesome. Awesome description. I'm honestly pretty surprised that David actually tweeted that and confirmed that. And I'm surprised because I would think it might hurt their Trojan horse kind of plan in working with the banks, because clearly in the thread, the very first part of the thread, let's go back, says it was literally created to destroy the bank's monopoly and disintermediate them. So to me, the fact that David Schwartz was willing to comment on this and say that is proof that we've got this in the bag. It's proof that this is done. There's no mission that could potentially be in jeopardy by him saying this. You know what I mean? Otherwise, he wouldn't have said it because it could have jeopardized the mission. But clearly, he has no fear in saying that kind of thing publicly and acknowledging that XRP was meant to destroy the bank's monopoly and give the power back to the people. So I think that's pretty awesome. Let me know what you guys think about that. And shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to Jaff. Shout out to Joel. Shout out to Crystal, Limonella, Kevin, Ada, Mr. Nice Guy Alexander, DCG. We are one. Good to see all you guys. All right, let's move on to the next story here. All right, now we're going to talk about ETHgate. We're going to talk about the Hinman emails, which were released today. So if you have not already heard the kind of preface to what these were, I'll give you a short 30-second to a minute explanation. We'll see if I can keep it to that. So basically, in 2018, there was a speech given by one of the top officials at the SEC, a guy named Bill Hinman. In this speech, he declared that Ethereum was not a security, that it was sufficiently decentralized enough to constitute itself a currency and not a security. And at the same time, they ruled that essentially every other cryptocurrency out there was a security, meaning it was an unregistered stock, right? So they're trying to say all these cryptos are unregistered stocks, and the SEC is trying to be this monopoly, this unelected bureaucratic agency trying to basically take over the control of what Congress would normally do. And now we're actually seeing Congress step in and advocate for change in the SEC, and specifically for getting rid of Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC. So anyways, backing up to the Hinman speech, associated with that speech, there were a series of emails that were sent out from Bill Hinman to the SEC, to the Ethereum Foundation, to Vitalik Buterin, who started the Ethereum Foundation. This is hilarious. I thought about that as soon as I said it. He's always there. Is he even real? Is it an AI in some kind of programmable meat suit? I don't know, man. I have a lot of questions. So anyway, these emails are what has been discussed in the Ripple versus SEC court case for some time period now. And they were private. They were only extremely redacted versions that were ever available for anybody to see. And I don't think the public really got to see anything. So Ripple has been trying to make these documents public because they said over and over and over publicly on Twitter, these documents are going to change the way that you guys see the case. They're going to show that the SEC is very corrupt. They're going to show that basically Ripple is in the right here. And they didn't say that, but that's basically what they were alluding to. And they said it was going to be very damaging, basically. And so eventually, the SEC was trying to keep these documents private, and the court ruled that they had to be unsealed. So the court denied the SEC's motion to keep these documents hidden from the public, right? Why would they want to keep them hidden? Because we're going to find out. Today was the day that the emails were actually released. I'm actually kind of surprised that we actually got them today because, with dates, they usually don't happen the way that they're predicted, especially in the crypto realm, especially in the kind of disclosure, kind of realm. But we actually got it, and we actually got it like before I was even awake, which surprised me too. And I wake up pretty early. Nowadays, I didn't used to wake up early, but now I've been waking up pretty early, like with the sun. And these came out, I think, around like 4 or 5 a.m. Pacific time. And that was interesting because I kind of thought they were going to come out like at night, that they were going to push it back. But anyways, let's read what Brad Garlinghouse and then the top lawyer at Ripple had to say about this. Give me just a second. Readjust my mouse here. There we go. All right. So Brad said, and I'll make this bigger for you guys. Brad said, it's absolutely unconscionable that a regulator, when presented with so much pushback on what he was about to say / how he compiled this fake test in the first place, decided to move forward anyway and throw an entire industry into chaos. For the SEC to sue Chris Larson and me personally for allegedly selling unregistered securities when their own division head deliberately created confusion about all this, which is basically partially what the emails revealed, that he and Bill Hinman intentionally created confusion and disharmony around what the clarity would be in giving ETH a free pass. Well, I don't have a single polite word to describe this deplorable, politically motivated overreach. Seeing the depth to which the SEC has essentially weaponized the lack of regulatory clarity through enforcement actions since this speech was given, it's no surprise that we can call bluff on their claims to just, quote, just come in and register as nothing but in bad faith. And for the record, too, Ripple had been trying to work with the SEC for years leading up to this lawsuit. They were going to the SEC's door, having meetings with them, having one-on-one discussions with head people at the SEC to make sure they were going down the legal, path, that they were doing it right. And they thought everything was going good until one day, head of the SEC drops this lawsuit on his last day in office, leaves the next day, and then Biden's guy comes in, takes it over, and really turns it into this huge corrupt thing. Even worse than we thought it was going to be. So let's take a look at what Stuart Alderati, who is the head legal person for Ripple, has to say. They said, it's been 5 years since Bill Hinman gave his infamous speech, and literally to the date, it was June, what is today, the 13th? I think it was June 13th or 14th, whatever today is, 5 years ago. So interesting that it was to the date. It's been 5 years since Bill Hinman gave his infamous speech, and through the SEC's lawsuit against Ripple and 7 court orders, we can finally share what happened behind the scenes through the now public emails and drafts of the speech. And I could play this video. It's 4 minutes long. I don't know. You guys tell me in the chat if you want me to play the video. I will move through the thread. If you guys do want to hear the video, let me know. If you don't want to, then we'll just keep moving on. So Stewart said, we now can all see Hinman ignored multiple warnings that his speech contained made-up analysis with no basis in law, was divorced from the Howey factors, exposed regulatory gaps, and would create not just confusion, but greater confusion in the market. A refresher. Hinman, as head of the SEC's CorpFin, gave a speech in June 2018 declaring that a token is not a security once it becomes sufficiently decentralized, and he invented factors to consider when making a sufficiently decentralized determination. Although Hinman claimed that the speech was his personal view, he and the SEC touted it as guidance. Then SEC Chair Jay Clayton publicly pointed to it. Despite the SEC repeatedly flip-flopping on the significance of the speech in litigation, it remains on the agency's website. Still on their website. Now let's look at what senior SEC officials directly said to Hinman about his speech as he was drafting it. Head of Trading and Markets, T&M, said, because the list of factors is so extensive and appears to include the things that go beyond the typical Howey analysis, we have concerns this might lead to greater confusion on what is a security. Hinman ignored those concerns. T&M directly asked Hinman to tie his newly invented factors more closely and explicitly to the Howey analysis. Again, Hinman ignored the suggestion. And for those that don't know, the Howey is the test that's been around for like almost 100 years, like 70 years or something, that is to determine what is a security and what is not. Office of General Counsel, OGC, and T&M called this factor legally irrelevant. Quote, has this person or group retained a stake or other interest in the digital asset such that it would be motivated to expend efforts to cause an increase in value in the digital asset? Hinman kept it. T&M and OGC noted Hinman skipped over the threshold jurisdictional question of whether a digital asset meets the legal standards of a security. He jumped to asking whether SEC oversight could, in Hinman's view, be beneficial. Hinman ignored this regulatory gap. On June 4th, which just so happens to be my birthday, funny enough, Hinman wrote that he didn't see a need to regulate ETH a security and would call Buterin later that week to confirm, quote, our understanding. It's kind of weird. On June 12th, OGC expressed its reservations about including a statement directly about Ether in the speech because it would make it difficult for the agency to take a different position on ETH in the future. ETH remained as a cited example. So what should happen now? First, remove the speech immediately from the SEC's website. An investigation must be conducted to understand what or who influenced Hinman, why conflicts, or at the very least appearances of conflicts, were ignored, and why the SEC touted the speech, knowing that it would create greater confusion. And finally, Hinman's speech should never again be invoked in any serious discussion about whether a token is or is not a security. Unelected bureaucrats may faithfully apply the law within the constraints of their jurisdiction. They can't, as Hinman tried, create new law, right? So he basically tried to do it his way, and his way was actually the Ethereum Foundation's way. So basically, what it looks like is that excuse me, the SEC was bending over to ETH, right? We found out that Hinman was on the phone with Vitalik just hours before the speech to make sure everything was all good, to make sure it was the way that, you know, he wanted it to be. So massive amounts of corruption. I'm just checking here because for some reason I'm not able to see the comments right now. It's hiding them from me. But hopefully the stream is all still going good. Hopefully it's not glitching out. We're going to keep pressing through. I don't know why it's not showing me comments anymore. It's pretty weird. But we'll press on. So, what this really shows is, again, backing up what we just saw in the last thread. Okay, awesome. Good. I can see some of the comments now. Awesome. It backs up the thread that David Schwartz confirmed about basically the polarity of XRP, like what it's here to do, like what side in the kind of spiritual war we're going through right now is XRP playing. And, I did say it is a neutral thing. So I don't think technology itself is good or bad, light or night. But overall, I think what it's being used for, the intention behind it from the people using it is one for good, which is what we confirmed by David through this thread. And then we see the flip side. We see the dark side. We see the people who are colluding. We see, the SEC colluding with Ethereum Foundation. Ethereum on top of this had all this super corrupt stuff that went on that they got a free pass for with their initial coin offering. Basically, they had a pre-sale that they got a free pass for later, that other groups did not get a free pass for, that other groups got sued for doing the same thing. They had a pre-sale of their Ether token to specific high capital investors who were able to buy massive amounts of the supply, which resulted in a huge centralization of the supply. And, we can compare Ripple's centralization of the supply to this, but I think they're different things, right? Like Ripple owns half of the supply of XRP, but to me, that is a guardianship kind of energy. That's a different thing than like corrupt individuals all getting a big slice of the Ethereum pie early on before then colluding with the SEC to make it the only, regulatory clear asset next to Bitcoin that is not declared a security. And like Stuart was kind of alluding to here, these guys probably had pretty big interests in the Ether token, meaning they probably were pretty invested in it. So it's kind of an insider trading deal, most likely as well. So we're really seeing the outline of kind of the two sides in the crypto war here, which is kind of coming out to a XRP versus Ether energy. And to add to that, Vitalik actually applied to work at Ripple before he ever created Ethereum, which is hilarious. So he wanted to go work for Ripple and he got denied supposedly on the basis of like a work visa. Who knows what it really was, but that's what he says. It was on the basis of not getting a work visa. And he was like sleeping on people's couches. He was like not a successful individual. Got denied from Ripple, then went and joined up with some other folks to make Ethereum, and then basically ever since then has worked to take down Ripple and XRP. So just like massive amounts of corruption. And when you see Vitalik too, I just want you guys to just look up Vitalik Buterin, and you know what? We'll show you a picture. And I just want you guys to get a read off of him. A lot of you guys have probably already seen him, but just want you to get an energetic read off this guy. Oh, wait, I'm not sharing. Here we go. Boom. So when you see this guy, oh my gosh, some of these are pretty scary. And then I want you to compare that to kind of the read that you get from Brad. I'm not even going to make any conclusions, but yeah. Oops. I've always endearingly called David a space Sasquatch. And what's funny is after I said that like out loud for the first time, a couple days later, he posted a picture of him standing in front of a hot dog stand that said Sasquatch on it. I was like, yeah, confirmation. Anyways, let's go back to our thread. Oh, spoiler. Yes, Buterin wanted to work for Ripple. Gensler wanted to work for Binance. So that's what came out recently too, is that Gary Gensler actually tried to essentially work with Binance and is now suing them. So the irony, these people are sore losers. Yeah, exactly, Lucid Heart. Exactly. All right. Let's move on to the next thing. So just super short here. This just popped up before I jumped on the stream, so I thought I'd include it. Pro Bitcoin crypto US Congressman, Mr. Davidson, no, I'm not familiar with him. Quote, permissionless peer to peer payments are essential to defending freedom. That's right. And that's exactly why the corrupt agencies are doing everything they can to stop them. And it's why they are really putting America behind in this, digital asset. I don't want to call it a race, but I kind of feel like it's kind of space race energy, not that we're necessarily in competition, but, just staying relevant with what's going on in the world and the fact that we know this infrastructure, especially when you think about BRICS nations and you think about BRICS and their new gold backed currency and how they are very likely to use XRP. Mr. Poole has multiple times one of the Riddlers for XRP. If you guys aren't familiar with that, Mr. Poole has showed pictures of basically the U.S. and all the BRICS nations with all the leaders that we know, basically stopping World War III and finding peace, kind of defeating their individual corruptions within their countries. I'm not going to say the trigger word, but you know what I mean. And XRP being basically the bridge that brings all those superpowers together and stops World War III. So pretty profound. Okay, so regarding Binance, I guess the judge in the case for the SEC suing Binance has allowed Binance to continue operating as usual in the US. US assets will not be frozen. So that's a good thing. That's a win, I think. All right. So we're going to transition out of crypto now. We can still talk about crypto if you guys want to, but we're going to talk a little bit about Big T. So, obviously, the big news today was that Big T was arrested. This is where the words get confusing because they all like to say arrested, arrested, arrested. Technically, you can be arrested without being charged, right? So he was, I guess, taken into custody at the Miami federal courthouse or whatever. And I actually got an email from his promo stuff that you guys might have gotten too, like maybe an hour or two before this, that said that he was on a plane on his way back home. So it sounds like he was not detained. Um, you know, Obviously, there's kind of a script to a degree going on here. So um, it's interesting and strategic timing, I think, with everything going on in crypto. The UFO disclosures too. That's something that I did not put in here, but that we can definitely talk about. Um, the kind of the meeting point of all these different major changes that are going to really create impact on the earth, and it's really heating up. Angelito says the USA is behind for now, but I think we will slingshot forward to the top of the digital asset industry. And I think you're right too. I think you're right. I think we're going to make a comeback. And, Ripple is an American company. It's based in the US. So if XRP becomes the new global, bridge currency or world reserve, then America is definitely in a strategic position with having Ripple as an American company. But Ripple has said they're not afraid to go to, another country if the environment becomes so hostile here that they're not allowed to continue their operations. So, now's a good time to say that if you are listening to all this and you're not into crypto yet, and the reason is because you're stuck and you don't know what to do, and you're like, okay, I resonate with this. This makes sense. Maybe you've got a little bit of XRP or Bitcoin or Ethereum or something. Maybe you have it on an exchange, or you have a ledger, but you don't know what to do beyond that. Or you're a total newbie, absolutely nothing, but you know that you need to take advantage of this opportunity because time is running out. So July 1st is when we're going to be starting the Conscious Crypto Academy. It's going to be an updated and revamped version of the coaching program that I've been running for the last year, that we've had I think a little over 50 people go through in the past year. And overall, I've coached close to 100 people before that program. And basically, I'm taking everything that I've learned in my years of experience and hours every day, researching, doing this stuff, making mistakes, learning my mistakes, figuring out how to not make mistakes so that I can teach you guys how to not make the same mistakes that the average person tends to make. If that resonates with you and you're ready to take that next step, you can apply to join Conscious Crypto Academy in the description down below. The link should be there. And there's just a quick application. You'll fill out some questions, and then you'll book a call with me. It's a free call, consultation call, where we'll see if you're a good fit for the program. We'll basically go over your current situation, what you're looking for, if I can be of service to you, and if we're a good fit, then we can work together. And we'll be starting this program the first week of July. So I've already gotten a couple people into that, and the alumni that have already been through Conscious Crypto are all in our community group that you're going to get access to. So we have conversations like this every day. We have weekly coaching calls every week where myself and Joel, who's in the chat here, who is on the live stream with me a couple days ago, we are in there answering your guys' questions every week, face-to-face on Zoom calls in an intimate group of usually around 10 people per call. And that's how we keep it, intimate. That's how we keep it so that you're getting the attention that you need to actually get through this, and you're not feeling like you're lost in a big classroom, a big digital classroom, right, where you don't matter. This is a conscious, intentional community of like-minded investors who see the opportunity that we're about to come into, and we want to use that opportunity to be of service to the planet, right? This is the moment in history that I believe we are being given the tools to be the change that we have been waiting for so long, right? Like, for so long, we've externalized that change in some kind of savior figure, right? Whether it's a president, whether it's ETs landing and coming to save us, or Elon Musk, or whoever you think is kind of the savior figure. And I like Elon, for the record, but I don't think he's our savior. I don't think DT is our savior. I think these people are doing good things, but we have our role to play too, right? We can't just sit back and watch. Like, we make this movie analogy a lot in these various communities, but we should be an active part of it. We shouldn't be treating it like a movie, because that really takes away the empowerment. So, we should, I think, acknowledge that there's an extent of a script running, but that doesn't mean that we're not a part of that. We're a part of that script and we get to co-write that script. And so this is where I truly, genuinely see XRP really above all the other cryptos giving us this tool to be that change and for conscious, intentional service to other individuals, people who want to help humanity, who want to help the planet. These people are being guided to XRP for some reason. You know, I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to, you know, Instagram, YouTube, Telegram, people that have reached out to me to work with me, people in conscious crypto that were like, "Hey, my story is just like yours. Like I didn't resonate with Bitcoin. I didn't resonate with Ethereum. They didn't sit right with me. But when I heard XRP, something lit up in my soul. Like there's something there that I can't deny." I've heard that so many times. And that's just like data that you can't ignore, right? I have not seen that with any other crypto out there. And I've even heard one of my Bitcoin maxi friends who hates XRP tell me that he acknowledged that the XRP community is without a doubt the strongest community in crypto. So even, you know, the opposition recognizes the connection that is there. And this is part of what we're doing in conscious crypto, right? So we are creating the network that we're going to use in this new world that we're building together, right? So we've got an international group, people from the US, a lot of people from Australia, Canada, UK, Europe, Mexico, like all over in our conscious crypto program. And when this stuff really pops off and we come into the wealth that is going to be shifting itself towards the people, we're going to be able to tap into each other's network and use each other's resources and be able to be there to support each other so that we can work together with each of our different niches and passions and expertise and backgrounds to co-create the world that we really want. And that's the main intention behind conscious crypto. So it's not just teaching you about crypto. It's not just so that you can make a bunch of money and like, you know, feel good about like, you know, of course, like, you know, we're going to get to a point where we are not needing money anymore, where we're comfortable, where we can enjoy our lives. But it's more than that. It's about the service that we're going to provide after that. It's about what we're going to build. And that's what I'm like the most excited for, because when we're talking about like the new earth and co-creating it together, it's going to be quite an expansive time. And I think it's really going to occur quite quickly. I think we're going to be able to undo the damage that's been done for so long, for decades on this planet, remarkably quick once we can put our resources and our energy together as a human civilization and decide, you know, this is what we want as a planet. And we, the people of Earth, are going to achieve that. We're going to create the Earth that is best for humanity and best for the Earth, and no longer serving just the top 1% of people that contain that, you know, own like 80% of the money or whatever it is. So yes. So if you want to join Conscious Crypto, you can apply down below and we'll have a conversation. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So let's us take a look at the storm. So General FLYNN, and I'm just saying that because I already have a warning on this channel. I don't want to get another strike and stuff. He says, yes, the storm has arrived. Now it's between competing clouds of those who are woke in the USG, the media, and the corporate world, all losing, by the way, and those who think they are taking real Donald T down through this fake, false indictment and additional persecution from the White House. They are making him even more appealing. The Rhino establishment wants us all to move past T and get on with their lame attempts to govern the nation. That hasn't worked for well over half a century. The Uniparty has yielded to take over of the communist left globalists. We, the people, need to rise to the occasion and start to participate in every action and election going on in our communities. And just for the record, for those of you guys that are watching this on Twitter, I don't think there's that many, But when I'm talking about like censoring, it's because of YouTube. So yeah, Twitter doesn't really censor, but YouTube does. So this was in response to Grassley revealing that the foreign national who bribed Joe and Hunter allegedly had 17. Oh, would you look at that? That's an interesting number. 17 audio recordings of his conversation with the Bidens, 15 with Hunter and 2 with Joe. 17 audio recordings, 15 with Hunter, 2 with Joe. He says they were kept by the foreign national as an insurance policy. All right. So the storm has arrived. At least that's what the general is saying. Crystal, man, I've been feeling pretty black-pilled lately. It's always nice to watch your videos. Brings me back to the white pill. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that it's having that effect because it can be really easy to get black-pilled. And for some reason, I just refuse to be black-pilled. I have an unwavering, undeniable energy in my whole being that knows that our future is a bright one, that knows that even though it looks intense out there and it can look scary and there's a lot of weird stuff going on, God has our back, right? And that's not to say that there isn't going to be more tough times ahead, but I think it's important to have that conversation with yourself and with God, with spirit, with your higher self, whatever you want to call it. You know, like, why are these things happening and what can I learn from them? Like, how does the external reflect to the internal, the macro to the micro? And what is this here to like teach me about myself? Um, and that's like I think that's like a deep and important conversation to have with yourself for everybody. I do this all the time, like try, and I don't always find the reason, but I try. Like I'm like, okay, what can this teach me? You know, what is this here to teach me and teach the planet? And how can this allow us to better serve humanity, right? um and it makes me think of the law of one. I've been reading a lot more of the law of one lately. And you know, one of the things that they say in the law of one is that the dark is able to basically have equal time to kind of put its opinions out there as the light, right? Because the infinite creator does not blink at neither the light or the dark, as the law of one says. If you aren't familiar with the law of one, I know most of you guys probably are, but if you're watching this and you're new to my channel, new to me, the law of one is a really, really profound set of channelings from the 1980s that even if you don't believe in channelings and spirits and that kind of stuff, just reading this material, even if you read it as fiction, has a profound ability to put things in perspective and I think heal the mind. But anyway, where I was going with that is that the dark and the light both have equal opportunity to present their ideas, and then it's up to us to choose which one we want to, you know, basically follow and align with. And ultimately, every bad thing that happens has a constructive purpose, right? It's all catalyst for growth. So every bad thing that happens in our personal lives has a specific reason. And one of the best quotes that I love from those books is that, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but basically, if a being were in perfect balance, in perfect harmony, the only response they would have to any situation would be complete and pure love. Meaning, even if, you know, someone's, you know, yelling at you, if they're getting in your face, like whatever, you know, if you have a reaction at all, that's where it's showing you like where you can build and, you know, like work on yourself basically. And I like to basically thank those like negative entities, you know, demons, whatever you want to call them, I think it disempowers them. When you thank those entities for servicing you and showing you how to be closer to God, it depolarizes them because you acknowledge that they're servicing you, which makes them service to others instead of service to self, like a demon would be, right? So it's an interesting thing that I would say, maybe think about that for everyone watching. Like next time that pops up, it's an interesting, like mental kind of experiment, and I think it's a very powerful thing. So Lemonella says, where do you find the Law of One and the readings? So, great question. There's books that you can buy like on Amazon, but you can go to their website for free. It's lawofone.info. I'll put this back up on the screen. So, lawofone.info has all the material for free. You don't need to buy anything. And what's really cool is you can go in order, or you can browse by category. So there's, subjects, and you can click each of the subjects like archetypal mind, cosmology, earth history, healing, um, UFOs, white magic. You can pick one, and then it'll give you all of the, subjects throughout all 5 books that are associated with that. So it's really cool. That's how I first got into it. I started like kind of poking around at the things that interested me, and then eventually went back and like read them through. And it's been a while since I had really read them, but in the past couple of weeks I've started rereading them again, and I find that every time I pick up those books and read them, like profound things start happening in my life. Synchronicities, things I cannot deny or ignore, like the most profound things. And they put me in this really meditative state. I think on the last live stream I compared it to like a DMT trip, where like the perspective that it gives you to me feels similar to like taking like an intense psychedelic like DMT without having to trip balls. So yeah, you're welcome. Totally. We Are One says, I stopped listening to all that doom and gloom BS a long time ago. It's tough because so many people do get really black pilled, and like you can't, it's like it's really hard to break through to, some people when they get really black pilled. And I think that's part of the intention of a lot of this stuff is, well, maybe not a lot, but maybe like a good chunk of it that comes out that might look like it's a positive disclosure, but maybe it's actually creating fear, in people, and creating that kind of black pilled mentality. So what's cool about the Law of One too, and I know people do this with the Bible. I've done this with the Bible as well. I like flipping to a random page in it, and then like whatever I'm reading is just somehow super applicable to my life. And that happened to me the past few days. Like every time I did it, it was like straight on, so applicable. And I was like, what the heck, man? Like it's crazy. It's kind of like almost like a tarot reading, right? Like you're shuffling and you go to a random place and you're trusting that God is going to put you on like the right page to give you the information that you need at that time. Nice. What kind of pizza, Jewel? Hopefully it's pineapple, because that's the best. Okay, let's round this out. I got one more thing to share with you guys, and then we can chill. We can, just talk about whatever. But this last thing I want to share, and maybe I'll actually play it for you guys. Okay, yeah, I'll play it, and let me know in the chat if you can't hear this. I think you should be able to, but let me know. And I'm going to mute my mic so it doesn't mess with it. Need this attention and this information attention because it needs to get out to the world. I will start, since we have to be brief,
I have already given all pertinent information and supporting documentation to the Senate Intelligence Committee and Arrow. They informed me that all of my information will be recorded for public record and shared with Congress. It is that important. In 2010, I was selected to go down to the South Pole Station in Antarctica for an entire year by Raytheon Polar Services as an employee of a third-party contractor for the National Science Foundation. I function in a dual-role capacity as a tradesman and a firefighter. My responsibilities required me to be more informed than most of my crew and offered me complete access to the facilities. What I learned from this unique experience needs to be shared with the entire world. The technology at South Pole Station certainly can do what it is presented as its primary purposes, and unfortunately, much more. The X-cube neutrino detector is presented as a passive listening device for the purposes of the science as presented, but I'm going to skip right through the chase, folks. I have provided documentation that proves that the 5,160, what they call DOMs, that are embedded in the ice can actually transmit at 2,047 volts each. That gives us a long list of things to consider. It is effectively a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform that I will list rapidly a few things that it can do. Vehicle detection. We're learning that these off-world craft, on-world craft, ours or other nations, are also emitting neutrinos. So this makes the South Pole Station effectively an air traffic control station for this new level of equipment that nobody's discussing. In addition to the ability to detect neutrinos and the exotic vehicles, I provided documentation that shows that this is also a system for faster than light communications. In the past, Gary McKinnon has hacked NASA, found the off-world fleet, the list of captains, and it's apparent that if we have faster than light vehicles moving throughout the system, we're going to need faster than light communications. This is that facility. Unfortunately, I have other bad news. The season that I was there, 2010 to 2011, we converted from construction to operations and maintenance in both the elevated station and the detector array. Unfortunately, when they first fired it up, that was when we had the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand. There was 2 incidental shots before they were able to target it correctly. This is an earthquake generating device as well. This is the weapons of war that we have to deal with now and what Raytheon is hiding. There's an ELF system at the South Pole Station, and when I arrived, I was told it was off, dismantled, and completely defunct. In my work, I will rapidly just tell you, I had to figure out the circuitry for certain other repairs, and I found that this system is in fact completely energized, up and running, and being utilized with the other systems for nefarious purposes as well. The Atmospheric Research Observatory is in what we call the clean air sector. I witnessed myself a very powerful green laser shooting out of the top of this facility into the cosmos. This, I believe, is a secondary form of long-range communications and or a defense system. I am not saying that we need to be scared of anything that's out there, but please understand the military-industrial complex is happy to invest all of your money in alleviating their fears. A question of power comes into play for all of these facilities that are present. I assure you, I knew what was going on. I knew the load demands of the facility, and all of these new items exceed the demand for the systems that I was presented. I am doing due diligence and research. I believe there's either a secondary power supply there that is either nuclear, that was there prior to the start of the Antarctic Treaty, which prohibits such things, and or that there is some sort of exotic power supply system there that just is not in the verbiage of the treaty, so it negates the responsibility to the parties involved.
And
I think that pretty much covers it for time. If anybody wants to find out more, I have a website where all this information is at. For brevity, I'll wrap it up, but you can go to deciphering.tv. I've documented all of this stuff and information is available.
Check, check. Okay, there we are. Oops. I keep getting the mute backwards on this microphone because I haven't used it in so long. Could you guys hear that? Just you can hear me now though, right? Could you hear the video, or did the video audio also go out? Hopefully you guys heard the video. Basically, he was saying these neutrino detectors function as directed energy weapons, as well as being able to sense craft, because these craft, for one reason or another, emit neutrinos. So yeah, I just found that interesting in kind of correlation with everything else going on with the world disclosure, UFO, all that kind of stuff right now. And what I said when I was muted was that, he was talking about how it runs on either nuclear energy or some alternative form of energy that doesn't violate the treaty, the Antarctic Treaty, because apparently you're not supposed to have nuclear energy in Antarctica. And I was saying, why would they even need to, follow their own treaty? Like, the treaty is probably just for the public to make us think that nothing's going on there. But on the other end, they're probably just violating the treaty all day, every day. But it would make sense if it was a different type of energy besides nuclear energy, something more alternative. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think about the UFO disclosures going on right now, like this intelligence guy, Gorish, something like that, who's come out that the media is kind of, walking out as the disclosure. And then this thing that happened in, what is it, Las Vegas? Did you guys hear about that? The ET that, or the craft that crash landed apparently in a Vegas family's backyard, and the family reported seeing two 10-foot tall, basically tall grays in their backyard. They called the police. The police guys had actually just gotten body cam footage of something falling out of the sky, and then immediately got this report. So they went over and they were kind of freaked out. But there was some kind of weird vibe to it. There was something weird. I don't know if you guys saw the video, but the kid, he was probably, 18 or so. He felt like he believed what he was saying, but I couldn't help but think there was something more going on with that whole situation, that it was staged, even if that kid didn't know. It was interesting. And my friend Matthew Morney, and most of you guys probably know him. He was talking about this on his stream the other day, and we both kind of agreed between a one being that it was totally fake, and a one being that it was real, and a two being that it was fake. We both felt like it was like a 1.7, like fake in that it felt staged, but there was something that felt kind of real about it, And, as far as Greer, one of the interesting things about Greer is that he's always said that there's no negative ETs, which I know has never quite sat right with me. It's felt a little off, right? And I heard recently at Greer's most recent event, I think it was in DC or something, past couple days, that people were saying he was a little nervous. He was like, and he wasn't normally like that. And someone else I saw was saying, well, maybe it's because this new whistleblower guy is saying kind of the opposite. So, I think personally there's good beings out there. There's bad beings. There's service to self, service to other. I think it's more accurate than good versus bad. And I think it's a little tricky if anybody's saying that only good beings exist. It feels a little deceptive. So, yeah. Yeah. But I will say that Greer was instrumental in my awakening. When I was in college for aerospace, he is what really got me into, like, really understanding that there was more going on, that, there were all these black budget programs and all that. He woke me up to that, but then I started realizing there was, half truths out there, and that's what a lot of groups will do, intentionally or maybe even not intentionally, because they're sharing information that they might not even know is wrong. But you'll get bits of truth mixed in with bits of disinformation. And, um, actually, I was just reading about this in the Law of One too. What they had to say about it is that as far as channelings, when people channel entities, and I'm sure you guys all know at least one figure out there who is known for channeling ETs in one form or another, or channeling whatever beings. They said you have to be very cautious with it, because basically, as the channeler, um, when you start asking more specific, non-relevant, I should say trivial or transient type questions, questions that are not focused around being of service, being, one with God, the path of seeking God. If it's more based around trivial, non-important stuff, that's when negative entities have the opportunity to come in and take over that channel. And this goes back to that law of, like, both kind of the polarities have to have equal representation in a way. So basically, they were saying that a lot of times these channelers, even though they have good intentions in what they're channeling, will channel negative beings or demonic entities mixed in with the positive ones and not know it. And oftentimes the key signal, they said that, like, basically the biggest thing to watch out for is like date predictions. That's one of their favorite things to do, is to basically get rid of the credibility of the channeler by giving them false date predictions that when they say, and then they turn out not to be true, people then don't believe them anymore, and it disempowers the service that the person was trying to do in the first place. So nice. Very cool, very cool. Well, uh the other thing I thought was interesting is, and I'm thinking I'm going to make a whole video about this, is types of craft out there. Um, like, what, for one, what kind of technology are they using? And what are the different types of, you know, I guess you could say craft, but what I mean by that is, I think there's kind of two main kinds. There's like your clank clank metal spaceship craft that run on some kind of fuel or have some kind of electromagnetic, engine, um, but they're physical, right? And then a big part of the UFO phenomena, I think, is also energetic craft, right? So craft that are thought form projections. So they're not physical, like, things. They're not physical, like, this microphone is, or like my computer or anything like that. They may appear physical, but they're actually like an interdimensional thought form. And this is what's starting to come out actually in kind of even the more official disclosure stuff. I think even this Gorsh guy was kind of alluding to that, like, hey, um, you know, these craft aren't really what people think they are. And I think that's kind of the disclosure that is coming out right now, is like, most people by now, I think, realize that we're not alone on this planet. But the specifics of the phenomena that we're experiencing are what most people don't, see eye to eye on. Um, and so I think that's going to be a very interesting part of this whole disclosure process, is like the average person awakening to that. Not only are we being visited by, off-planet entities, but a big portion of these are, or maybe I don't want to say a big portion, but a chunk of these are um, interdimensional thought form type things that you can't necessarily take back to a lab and examine and do that kind of thing. So, and that's basically what they say in the Law of One too, that the thought that as civilizations progress, as they evolve, there's kind of two directions that they go, even within the positive. If we're talking, and actually this applies to the negative as well, they said. But there's kind of the direction of the technological craft, and then there's the direction of the internal craft, right? You could say the Merkaba or the light body craft, right? And basically what they said is that both paths are valid, and it's not that the technological path is any less right or any less on the path of seeking God or anything like that. But basically what they said was that it's a much slower path to seeking God, and that the civilizations which focus on technological travel are usually more focused on the external world instead of the internal beingness, right? And the civilizations that have focused on the internal growth and the spiritual growth over the external technological growth basically become super beings much faster than the evolution that the technological path would take them, right? And I'm not saying technological path like transhumanist. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like a healthy use of technology. Like basically, if we were to get disclosure tomorrow and we were to get spaceships, like say we each got our own personal electromagnetic craft, right? And you can fly around, you go to other planets, you could go wherever. If we were to continue down that path of expanding that, that's what they're talking about. So it's not that it's a transhumanist thing. It's just there's an alternative approach to the service to other kind of path in pursuing knowledge and understanding and wisdom of the universe. And it's a path of going within. And once basically you go within in your evolution to a certain degree, abilities are unlocked. And that path is a faster path to seeking the one. It's a faster path to seeking God. So I've thought about this in terms of like how humanity is going to choose with its free will to proceed, if we're going to, be a technologically based civilization, or if we're going to actually go, okay, we're going to kind of, put down the technology and, seek a more earthy, grounded, internally seeking kind of life. And, like we are one. I would love a spaceship, right? Like I would too. So this is where it's like an interesting mental experiment, right? Because on one end, I do think 100% that this kind of technology could free us, right? And I think really what I would guess is going to happen is that the technology will free us from the limitations that we've been imposed upon by the powers that were. That the technology will free us to a point where we can then begin to have the free will to seek a more spiritual path, because we're in a balanced and cared for and protected state, right? We're not living in fear anymore. We're living in a harmonious society where humanity is actually getting along. Different nations, different groups are getting along. We're helping each other. I think once we start going down that path, we could see humanity as a whole kind of maybe start to move in the more spiritual direction and say, okay, you know, the spaceships, the energy and all that, it's helping us. But basically, you can do a lot more with an internal spaceship than you can an external spaceship, right? Um, and even just in terms of remote viewing, like if you're watching this and you're like, oh, this is all, this is all woo woo, blah, blah, kind of stuff. Just look at remote viewing, because it's really not any different than the mechanics behind remote viewing, which are very objectively real. There's a lot of information about out there from even 3-letter agencies and government groups talking about the legitimacy of remote viewing. And this is basically an extension of the remote viewing ability, that you can project your thought form anywhere in the universe instantly. And it's just way more efficient, right, than having a spaceship. So it's like, it's an interesting thing, because again, I would love a spaceship right now, right? Like it's way better than our car. So it'll be an interesting path of evolution, and seeing where humanity's free will ends up taking it as we move forward. Oh, we already saw that one. This is the one I meant to highlight. Everything is energy, sound, and vibrations. ETs are using those same principles to travel through our universe through multi dimensions. Yep. And, you know, again, I was just reading this in the Law of One, funny enough, in the last book where they have the basically redacted material, the personal material that they took out from the first 4 books. There's a section in there about the craft that they started making after Tesla's. So basically, they said that as we've heard, the government came in, took Tesla's papers, and then they used that to then start building the craft that we all know is out there, the TR3Bs, the Project Auroras, this kind of stuff. And that they said when they were doing this channeling in 1981, they said the US had something like 5,000 of these craft at that time. But the interesting thing is that they were not manned. There was no pilots. You couldn't get in them. And they said we should think of them less as a craft and more as a weapon. They were more of an electromagnetic weapon that they were using to change weather patterns, DEW kind of stuff. Who knows what else? But I found that interesting because I haven't really heard that to that extent that early on, that, kind of like they were more drones than they were pilotable craft. And it does kind of remind me of like the Die Glocken craft that the Nazis were working on in, World War II. Those were like unmanned, the Foo Fighters. Who knows if those had pilots in them or not. But the Die Glocken Bell craft definitely did not have a pilot, although I think they took that and later put it in the what do they called it? I forgot what they call the craft. I don't remember, but there's I think it starts with an H. If anyone remembers, throw it in the chat. No, I don't remember. But there's like multiple sized craft that they were making that they used the Die Glocken, that they put these turrets on. The very kind of basic, almost like primal, big old turrets on these UFOs that we've heard about from like the Admiral Byrd expeditions and in Antarctica, after World War II. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm starting to get a little tired, so I'm going to wrap this stream up, but it has been super fun. Again, if you're trying to get into crypto and you're ready to make the first move and you're looking for a coach and you want to work with me, you can apply down below. I would love to talk to you about it. And it's going to be an exciting month and year. And there's a lot going on. So I'm sure I'll be back with another live stream soon. I'm excited that I've got my live stream set up again. And looking forward to making more content. So thank you guys for hanging out. Love you guys very much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out. And we're going to end with the intro again. The intro / outro. Peace, guys.